inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you?
I'm really good. Yes, here in the UK, and the sun is shining, so that's not very common here. So it's nice.
Well, fantastic. It must be something. It means something good for this interview, I think, if the sun is shining and everything is fantastic. Well, we are super excited to talk to you today. We're going to talk all about the latest film, Duchess, available to rent right now on all the platforms. So we're excited. It's a very interesting film. It's a little bit unique in nature with the storyline and everything. So we're super excited to talk about that. But what we like to do, just to kind of start things off or anything, for anybody that might not be familiar with you, we kind of talk about a little bit about how you got started in the industry. Was acting something you always knew you wanted to do? Did you kind of fall into it? How did it start?
There wasn't really a defining moment where I saw something and was like, oh my god, I have to do this. It was more of a gradual thing. I'd always loved drama class in school, elementary school, and I then asked my parents if they could put me in drama classes at the weekends. Musical theatre school, dance, drama, and singing, which I absolutely loved. And it was really once I'd finished school, I was like, do you know what? This is what I have to do. This is what I love. This is what I live for. Going to drama school at the weekends. I just love it. And I was 19 years old, and someone said to me, Charlotte, if you want to be an actress, go to the US. So I said, okay. I didn't think twice. I packed up my bags and went to the US. Didn't know anyone. So I went to New York first, and then on to LA. So yeah, and then the rest is history, really. The US, US is the ticket. You wanna be an actress? Go there. So I was like, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. I feel like this is an industry you have to be all in. It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
There's no maybe fallback. So for me, it was always, failure wasn't an option, or going back to the UK. I just knew that, like anything in the entertainment business, anything in any business really, I feel like if it's something you really want to do, you have to go all in. You have to go all in and not have, a backup plan or think twice about it.
No, that's
most definitely. And especially feeling a sense of purpose when at such a young age, being in elementary school and, trying to support extra time on the weekends to make sure you scratch that creative itch. So to take that leap of faith and going over to the United States, across the pond, as we like to say, what was your first initial reactions when you get here, you land, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? What were your first steps to try to break into it?
I actually remember getting off the plane and going straight from the plane to an audition.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of literally running and not stopping. Like I had these blinkers on. I had like, this tunnel vision and just went for it. And just taking meetings after meeting. I do believe work gets work, so taking every opportunity possible. I think my first ever film was Black Dog, Red Dog with James Franco. It was like a student film. Then I met some people from that, and that helped get my next film. And then I realised a lot of the meetings and auditions were in LA, so then I moved to LA like 6 months after.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of stage work in LA actually. And that helped get me film work. There was a few people that saw me on stage in LA, and that helped me book quite a few jobs. So and then I was there for a good 10 years, and I was steadily working as an actress. And I would say it was a few years ago when there was a lot of roles that I really wanted to play that I didn't have the opportunity to play. I wasn't getting those roles, and I think good scripts are really hard to come by.
Yeah.
Good scripts with female leads are even more difficult to come by.
Yeah, most definitely.
So that's when I was like, I think I just got to create and write and produce my own stuff.
Love that.
And that's kind of how it came about. And Duchess actually would be my full film that I've kind of co-wrote, produced, acted in as well. So, all in. Even up to today, all in.
Okay, so much to unpack there. First, and I'm glad you said the 6 months between New York and LA, because my first question was, I was thinking, like, that's got to be quite the culture shock coming from London to New York. right? And then New York is so drastically different than LA. So like making those, so that's kind of a quick turnaround between all those three locations. Was there any kind of adapting, or were you able to just be like, okay, New York's great, LA's great? Was there any kind of I need to figure out because this is so different from what I'm used to?
I think because I was so young.
Yeah.
I think when you're like 19, you're still kind of a child, that you're very adaptable and you're
Right.
a sponge. So I think, like thinking of moving to another country today would absolutely terrify me. Like, how did I do that?
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. It was more of a gradual thing.
Nice.
Like, I have 2 cases with me, and I thought I'll be back in a couple of months, and then it was 6 months, and then it was a year. So it was in my mind it was gradual. It wasn't, but it was bit by bit.
Well, and then the next thing too, because like I said, but and this is impressive because as you said, you were young, and so you were just all in, and you were gunning and fearless and everything, and yet you are already smart enough, because a lot of people don't figure it out early, to understand the importance of taking jobs, because jobs lead to jobs, and networking, understanding that it's not necessarily the job, it's a student film, or it's a free commercial, or whatever, but it's the people you meet who can introduce you to the people you meet who get you the jobs that you want. And so to understand that, basically coming right off the plane at 19, that's fantastic, because like I said, a lot of people in the industry struggle and don't figure it out for whatever reason, whether it's ego or whatever. They're like, that role's too small for me. I don't have a speaking role. It's a student film, and they won't do it. And it's like, well, and then you're wondering.
One of my first movies was playing a corpse.
Yeah, exactly.
Being on set, and that's how you learn, and that's how you meet, and that's kind of my advice today. If anyone says what's the best advice, it would be take every opportunity. As you said, as work gets work, one job leads to another. 100%.
Right.
You have to do it. And you might do it and hate it, but you have to try it. Because I believe you have to. You might do it and hate it, but then at least you can say you tried. My biggest thing is regret something you didn't do. I'd rather regret something that I did do.
Right.
But I'd rather that than not doing anything.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
most definitely. And I mean, we're here to talk about Duchess. You brought it up a little bit earlier. We're very excited about it because over the past couple of years, we haven't really seen this type of film with a female leading actress in that particular role, which we need more of. I mean, the last one that comes to mind is like Peppermint with Jennifer Gardner. That was like, what, 4 freaking years ago or something like that?
Maybe longer,
maybe even longer. But I mean, you just look like such a badass in this thing. First of all, you definitely look like you can throw a punch. So let's talk about the preparation for this role. I mean, did you have to go in intense like fighting combat training before heading into this thing, or like how was the preparation?
I mean, it was physically challenging, but remember, very important that we wrote her to be. She's not a superhero. She's not, she's a regular girl. But having said that, she did have to be a great boxer. So that was very important, and that comes into play later on. So yes, I did do quite a lot of a good 2 weeks, 3 weeks with the stunt guys, and again, it's almost like learning a dance. It's like a choreography. I mean, one of the hardest days on set actually was very, very tough. It was literally the full day of me in the boxing ring. It was almost like trying to pat my head and rub my belly at the same time. I'm learning, remembering all the moves and the lines at the same time.
Oh yeah.
But it was great. But yeah, that was one of the most challenging things, is learning that I come across like a believable boxer.
Well, and so let's talk about the story a little bit, because that's an excellent point. She basically starts off as just a small time little thief, just trying to take care of herself, just trying to figure it out, right? And ends up in this crazy organized crime world of diamonds and smuggling and stuff. So you're right. She's not this action hero. She's not this badass who's been doing this her whole time. She's basically falls into this and figures out, well, now I've got to learn how to survive in this world, because apparently I'm in this world now. And that's not always easy because people she thought that she could trust, she really couldn't trust, and she's kind of manipulated, and there's some stuff that she feels like she's got to correct because some people did her wrong. Talk about that, just the whole process of that, the evolution of the character throughout the film, because I feel like her character develops throughout the film very extensively from where she starts off as Scarlett to where she ends up as Duchess, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I almost say it's almost like a My Fair Lady story. She doesn't become like proper RP Queen's English, not to remotely that, but I think that this whole evolution of her emotional arc and her development, as you said, she just trying to get through life. She's almost in this fish tank bubble in this small world, and she falls in love.
Right.
That's really what it's in love. And it just so happens this guy is the head of a diamond syndicate organization, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but she and others are betrayed, and she ends up taking revenge. But I think it's very important to say, as much as it is a gangster movie, it's a revenge movie as well. Now, a lot of movies today, as you said, Peppermint, the revenge happens in 5 minutes. I don't understand as an audience member how you're meant to be rooting and caring for these characters within like the revenge happening within 5 minutes. A big inspiration for this film was Man on Fire with Denzel Washington. You get to love the character, and within an hour, that's when the revenge happens. And then you're really rooting for them. This film, I'm hoping, you laugh, you cry, you have all these different roller coaster of emotions. So it was very tough to make sure that I play it. Obviously, I have a, if any film you can be as bold and as big in terms of performances, I think it's a gangster movie, right? Look at Al Pacino in Scarface. But at the same time, there was also making sure that I wasn't going way over the top. So there was definitely that fine line of making sure I play it not, too obscene, absurd, but still at the same time, she was very rooted and grounded, and she just, but also having that transition of her becoming Duchess. And I think one of the lines, one of the characters says, like, since she's got back, she's not the same anymore. And it's that having that transition. And a big thing for me is emotional continuity.
Right.
Even though changes, making sure that the emotional continuity in her character is the same. Otherwise, it's like, well, this isn't even the same character. And yes, she's still Scarlett. So that was challenging, and the boxing was. But I think, overall, it's like any great film. It's an action film, but it's got layers to it as well. It's about love, betrayal, and family, and all these other things as well. And I think that's what makes a great film.
Well, and that's what I was just about to say. I love how it kind of mirrors real life in the sense of emotion and in the sense of betrayal, because obviously big things don't happen like this to normal people in everyday life. But I mean, betrayal happens where you hear somebody talking about you, or, death always happens in families and things like that. So to be able to portray that in such an exaggerated way, and in a way that I feel like, I feel like pop culture is very fascinated with the mobster culture, the revenge culture, the wanting the big explosions in life. Like, we get that in our mind. We get the fireworks when we have the first kiss, but to be able to kind of represent that in more of a grounded way, the way y'all did in this film, I feel like is very relatable, and which is very special to see, because there's so many different types of things out there that you feel like are so, as far as like thought processes, they're so out of reach and out of touch with reality. So to hone that in a sense to where like it's grounded in reality, but you still have that excitement of explosions and revenge, I think that is what's very special what this film is doing.
Thank you so much. Exactly. It's the rooted, everyone can relate to it on any level. Love, betrayal, friends, family. But then also at the same time, it's heightened reality because it is a movie, and Neil wanted to make it as entertaining as possible, and he's definitely got 70s vibe with all the colours.
Yes, for sure.
In that respect, but then it's believable as well, and hopefully you do. She's an anti-hero, but I'm hoping you're on her side because we've taken the time. Her vengeance is, you're rooting for her because you think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they deserve it. Like there's a
Yeah, no, and that's the key to a successful film and character within the film is to make them likable, even if they're doing stuff that's not so likable, right? But
yeah,
you feel for the character, right? Every villain is doing it because they think what they're doing is right. So whether it's a villain or an anti-hero or whatever the case, they always genuinely believe they are doing it for the right reason and that they're what they think that. So you have to have that. You have to make the character likable or connectable or it doesn't work. And I think you guys did a really good job of making that work. You do feel for her. You do feel like this vengeance is necessary because she deserves to have this stuff. And so it works really, really well. You mentioned kind of more at the top that this was the fourth one. So you're writing and producing, which is just a whole nother. Anybody in the industry that's only been on the acting side of it, or anybody that's not familiar with the industry doesn't understand producing and what kind of a beast producing is in itself. So to take that on, and then of course the creative aspect of writing and the acting. The industries. Everybody who's in the industry knows it. Suits and creatives. Anytime that you can find people who are both and able to successfully pull it off as a suit and a creative, that's something special, and it doesn't happen very often. It's rare that you're able to do both. My question for you, though, is since you have done the producing and you've toiled in the writing and you've been in front of the camera, is directing on the horizon, or do you see yourself directing now that you've got all that other stuff going on? Well, maybe directing yourself in something.
oh my gosh. Never say never.
Right.
There you go.
But there's I still want to master. I feel like in any art form, you're never not satisfied, but you're always striving for perfection, which you'll never get. Right. So I always want the best I can be as an actress and as a writer first.
Right.
But again, never say never. I love just acting is really what I love to do, and producing and writing is more out of necessity, I guess. The two films we had done before this were very, very different. One was The Lair, which was a sci-fi action film, and then one was The Reckoning, which was a horror.
Right.
And then me and Neil was sitting there one day and was like, what should we do next? Movie. Some of my favorite movies are gangster movies, but I've never seen a woman boss before. Why don't we do that? And that's literally how that idea came about. And then actually we did shoot something last year that's coming out next year called Compulsion, which is very different. It's like an erotic horror.
Okay.
Shot in mortar, so it's kind of inspired by, you remember the old Italian giallo movies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely got that vibe going on. So I'm very Duchess, but I'm really excited about Duchess. I'm really riding this wave of just people loving it and enjoying it. We wrote it in 2018, we shot it in 2022. It was quite a long time out now. So and so far, I mean, people are liking it. So I'm hoping it's going to be one of those films that people are just going to love for a long time.
I think I think you're in luck. I think people are going to be drawn to it, like I said, because you did a really good job, you guys, of formulating characters and a story that people can connect to, and that's what it's all about. So I think you guys are going to see some success with it for sure.
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually going to Lisbon next week in Portugal to do the premiere there, so that was really cool. And then I was in LA 2 weeks ago doing the premiere there, and that was so cool just to see obviously the other cast members and seeing it with an audience on the big screen. And that was very, very, that's very rewarding to me, get the reaction of the audience.
Oh, most definitely. Because I mean, you got to scratch that creative itch for yourself, but I mean, it's all about the audience. You want them to feel something. You want them to start conversations, and yeah, that's what we try to do. We're filmmakers as well, and that's what we try to do with our films. So we are right there with you. Sometimes it can be a struggle, especially in current day times. Like for example, we made a school shooter film basically, and it was right around the time where there was some school shooter stuff happening. So. Yeah, it got a little rough.
It's in the zeitgeist, and it's something that needs to be, in a way, shined a light on. It's a real tragic thing.
It is.
So,
Exactly. And I mean, sometimes you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's one of those things where you got to spark conversation. You got to have these conversations so that we can keep moving forward and keep getting better as
Yeah.
a humanity and society and all of these different things.
No, I feel
Um,
like the audiences today is so desensitized with so much stuff out there. You
yeah.
have to slap them around the face and say, look at this. I'm serious, like some of the stuff in Duchess is pretty outrageous. And my whole thing was go as big and as bold as and outrageous as possible. Because right now, audiences have seen it all.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. So it had to be exceptional writing, exceptional, like out there, violence, this, whatever you want, throw it out there. Because literally they've seen it all anyway.
Yep. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Well, what we like to do towards the end of our interviews is have our guests answer a little bit of popcorn questions. We love this segment because it's a fun way to end the episode or end the segment to where we can get to know you a little bit more about your personality, your likes, your dislikes, all the good things. So on this specific set, on Duchess, what was the most memorable or the funniest moment on this set?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and it's not great at all. I got COVID, and so did the director.
no.
Yeah.
Like the first thing that comes to mind because it's terrifying and it's just one of those things. But again, we got through it. We got it in the can. But it was very touch and go. We had to stop filming for a couple of days. A lot of films shut down. So yeah, that was the first thing that come to mind.
Well, that's memorable.
We understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
we understand the health problems where we went through the same thing. So we're right there with
Oh
you.
yeah, we shot ours during COVID as well. So yeah, the whole protocol, we know the stuff. Okay, so here's a fun one, and I'm real curious for your answer on this one. If you could live inside any film or television show, which one would it be and why?
Right.
I'm currently watching Bridgerton, mainly 'cause I'm currently watching it, and I'm kind of in love with the era and the costumes and the horses and carts and the
Yeah.
Yeah.
society of England.
Right.
It's just because I'm currently watching it right now. Oh my god, that's really hard though. And then there's certainly because all of the films that I like are like horror and sci-fi, so I'm not sure if I'd want to live in those.
Right.
Yeah, unless I'm like Ripley and Alien and I get away, but that would be pretty terrifying and horrific. But so, yeah, right now I'd say Bridgerton, or because I'm like obsessed with dogs, maybe 101 Dalmatians.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my like dream project, just to film with dogs all day long. That would
Well,
be
there you
great.
go.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Talk about therapy at work.
Oh,
my
yeah.
goodness.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Well, this one is very interesting because we always get a wide range of answers for this one. If you could work with anyone, who would it be? Directors, actors, cinematographers, behind the camera. It was that one specific person that you're just still wanting to work with.
Dead or alive, or alive?
Dead or alive.
I mean, if it was dead, I mean, because if I had to choose anyone, it would be Marlon Brando.
Yes.
I don't think there was anyone like him, and there will be anyone like him. I just think he transformed acting, didn't he?
He
I
did.
mean, one of his and actresses is Gone with the Wind and Vivian Leigh. Streetcar Named Desire, when you see him, I mean, she's phenomenal in it, but she's acting in those times when he comes along and he's so effortless and chilled and just really, you think, wow, like he just transformed acting, and he was so truthful, even though he didn't like acting or the industry.
Right.
But I think that'd be quite a phenomenal experience.
That is a great answer. Yeah, and I love that. I love the explanation, right? Not just a Marlon Brando. Okay, well, everybody loved Marlon Brando, but the explanation as to why that was a really good explanation as to what your thought process is in choosing Marlon Brando. That was really good. Okay, now we're gonna get deep for a little bit, and you kind of touched on this at the top of the interview, but I'm real curious to see if you expand on it or whatever. If you could go back in time and tell your 10-year-old self something, what would it be?
Don't trust everyone. I've trusted, a lot of. I think a lot of creatives can be kind of vulnerable, and we think that everyone is as kind and as sweet as us, and genuine, and taking people for their, face value is not usually correct. So yeah, I would say just not trusting everyone and being more cautious.
It's great advice, and there's a reason why they call this industry swimming with sharks, right? You gotta look out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Literally, especially when you said like being a suit and a creative, it's very tough navigating those waters. So because a lot of the suits don't give a damn about the creative at all. It's just about money, and that's fine because it's a business. We want to make money, but you don't have to screw people along the way.
Well said.
Most definitely. I'm actually really happy you brought that up, because earlier on in our conversation, like, I was thinking about that while we were talking about the film, where, people at face value, they're very excited, very cheery, very wanting to work with you, but then you try to call them the next day or the following week or whatever, and they don't return your phone calls, or like you finally get to a point where you're producing alongside them, and then you raise the money and then you don't hear from them again. We actually just had a friend who lost out on a whole lot of money, like boots on the ground, ready to go, but then his investor was full of shit the whole time. So, it's one of those things where you have to be cautious. You have to be excited, but also be cautious at the same time. It's so unfortunate.
It's like taking, as you said, you want to take people for face value, and you're creatives, and you want to believe that everyone is as, authentic as you, and then
right.
Jaded at the same time. I think it's just until the money's in the account, until the paperwork signed, it's great. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Exactly. And the fifth and final one, and of course we know the answer to this one. We always do. Are you happy with your career so far?
Yes and no.
Okay.
No, because it's like, I think, as I said earlier, as a creative, you're always on to the next thing. You're always striving for perfection that you're never going to get. And I think that I am content. It's like, can you be content without happy without being content? Any creative's really content. I am happy in my life, but I'm very happy about Duchess, but I still got a lot more to do.
Nice. There you go. Well, listen, you have been an absolute gem to talk to. You can tell that just you light up when you talk about the industry and the job and what you love to do, and that clearly shows. And we love talking to passionate people and like-minded people, which you clearly are. And just continued success. As you said, I have a feeling you're just getting started. I think that's going to be a long career with a lot of stuff coming. And we thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. It's been a lot of fun today.
Thank you. It has. I would love to come back anytime and talk to you about my other films as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, this is the part of the show where you can promote anything and everything. Be sure to leave your social media and all the good things. You know how it goes.
Right. Yes, my social. So Duchess, please watch. Amazon, all the usual suspects. Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, and in cinemas as well. On Instagram, Charlotte Kirk Official, and Facebook as well.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much today. We appreciate your time. Yes, open invite anytime you want to come back on and talk about your future projects and anything like that. We also have a mental health podcast as well, if you ever want to come on that and talk about mental health. We're big advocates, so we love having all sorts of kind of discussions, so it's always very fun. But again, thank you again. Take care, and we'll be reaching out to you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Oh, man. What a phenomenal interview. I mean, first of all, taking time out of your day from across the pond. I mean, we've interviewed people from London. We've interviewed people from India. We've interviewed people from Australia.
Yeah.
Like, it's always so nice when you get the opportunity to do that, because it's so different from our culture and day-to-day life. So it's nice to be able to talk to other creatives who are in different parts of the world. I think that's very special.
For sure, and it's we have a pretty good international audience, listening audience and stuff. So it's always great to be able to interview people from other parts of the world, because we have listeners in other parts of the world that are there to tuning in. So it's always good. And like I said, yeah, I really enjoy talking to people who are clearly passionate about what they do, right? And she clearly is. There was no doubt anytime through the interview that she loves what she does and she's looking forward to doing more. And I think she shared a lot of really good advice. Watch out for people, because you can't trust everybody. Learn early that it's all about networking and being on set and taking jobs, right? So if anybody out there that is aspiring to get into the industry, listen to those pieces of advice, because you can't go wrong if you do those things.
Most definitely. Thank you again, Miss Charlotte, for coming on the show.